Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Needs Some Introduction. In today's episode, we'll be covering quite a few different shows. So we'll definitely be talking about Murderbot, episodes 1 and 2, the new Apple TV Plus science fiction series that just premiered last week. Also, a new series on HBO Max. Darren, by the way, HBO Max, they changed the name yet again. This is like the 10th time they've changed the name. They've brought HBO back into the HBO Max, which, of course, for me, such a head scratcher. You make this reputation for decades of like Premier TV is HBO. Let's throw that part out. I'm like, what are you guys talking about? It's so crazy. And by the way, HBO owns Cinemax. So it's like, oh, Max. So all the Cinemax content is also on there, right? No, that's separate. I'm like, what is going on over there? Anyway,
Look, I'm so confused because in Australia we don't have HBO. I just got the Max app last week to watch this Dexter show. And then I got a notification saying they're changing their name. So
it's HBO Max. Yep, exactly.
Whatever. Let's just go with it.
Yeah, so we have this show Dexter, of course, on HBO. That's Darren, by the way. I'm Victor. That's Darren, and we'll co-host to go along with all this crazy streaming content that's out there. Oh, by the way, before we get into it, check the show notes of all the episodes, probably where I say check the show notes. We are going to be talking about multiple shows. We'll probably get into spoilers on some of the specific episodes. So if you're only here for some of the content, don't want to get spoiled on the other one, do definitely check the show notes. Darren, I was trying to unify this conversation in some way, and I started thinking, you know what they all have in common? These are three shows, Mobland, and Murderbot and Dexter, three shows that honestly probably don't work and are only worth watching because of the charisma of the central character, to be honest, right? And maybe we go through them in some kind of sequence to discuss how successful they might be at that. You get to choose. Where do you want to start off? You want to start with Mobland?
Sure, let's do Mobland.
Then the dawn. The rain stops, and I heard this holy sound. A fresh, newborn wheel, hollering his head off. I came into the room there, my mouth all dry, knees knocking. And the midwife handed me my son.
Brendan, Rory, Francis, Kieran, Harrigan.
I went out there into the backyard, all wet with rain, and I held him up in the new dawn light, and I hollered to all the neighbors, "Hark ye! A new prince is born. Brendan, the navigator, leader of men." The dreams I had for that boy.
Yeah, I watched it last night, so I'm up to speed on Mobland. But I've got to say that after talking to you last couple of weeks, and we've just kind of been a bit off it, I've been watching it with a different eye, like maybe a second screen or like on in the background while I have a chat, and I'm enjoying it much more. Maybe it's a coincidence that these last two episodes have been pretty good, or maybe it's just that I'm not investing my whole self in this show and I'm just kind of having it on and seeing what happens.
Yeah, I mean, it goes back to that idea. I mean, I started saying last week that I think maybe I've been watching the show wrong and that it's really just a soap opera. I mean, if we need proof that this show is really just a soap opera, this week's episode, which is obviously, it's one of the shortest episodes of the show, and there is so much plot happening every 10 seconds. Like everybody gets a little plot, moves forward for all of them, and there's just so much plot being laid out that I mean, at this point, it is thoroughly a soap opera. And maybe like you even think about potentially what we're tying together, all these new characters that have been introduced, that this might be just a big operatic, cataclysm, like all these things coming together in the final episode. So what did you think about this? We have we have a brand new character now, Toby.
Oh, Toby Jones, is it?
Toby Jones, yes. So Toby Jones shows
up.
I
love him. I love seeing him in the corner of the room. Just his face, he's so amazing. I mean, I remember seeing him. Did you watch this mini series that he was in where it was based on a true story, and he went out on a canoe and faked his own death.
Oh, I didn't see that. No.
It's called The Man in the Canoe or something. It's like a British miniseries, true crime story, and he gets away with it for a number of years until he finally comes undone. He's so fantastic in it, and it was great to see him in the corner of the room in Mobland, and he has a bit to do, and he's got a lot of power, and he goes back in Richie's life. He says, "Oh, we've been hanging around since '75 or something." So yeah, enjoyed seeing his character.
This is a big reveal here. Not only bringing in this very famous British actor for this, but obviously, what did this portends, right? That Richie is in cahoots with the police, or at least this corrupt aspect of the police force. And of course, we can maybe start from the end and work our way back. But this is kind of shocking finale, right? Like we've been spending so much time with these two investigators, questioning Harry and getting closer and closer to the truth, and now they've just both been rubbed out right here, and he's fully aware of it. I was for a minute there, I was thinking like, oh, how is this going to play out? If he has this relationship with this other cop, like as if this would be maybe a bridge too far. They're like, no, he was right there the whole time, watching the whole thing play out. So, what do you think that means for the future of the show, or what directions might be going in?
I was a bit confused that he was just sitting there, kind of. I thought, did he know that was going to happen,
Right.
or was that a surprise to him? I feel like after just hearing you that he knew that was going to happen. He knew that they were going to rub him out.
Yeah, I think so too. It just seems that he doesn't seem to be shocked. He's pretty relaxed about the situation there at the end. So it seems that maybe they're just getting rid of this inconvenient investigation, which is interesting because you think about how I think it's a little bit of a mistake, and maybe there's more to it, but I think it's a little bit of a mistake because if you wanted to, you could sick them onto Conrad and family, and that could be a better way to use them. But instead, we have them, eliminated from the storyline, which is a little, maybe it's just time to trim back some of these characters. There's quite a few plots unraveling here.
Yeah, when you introduce a big name, maybe you have to get rid of a few no names. So yeah, they got brutally eliminated there by Richie. Great to see Richie back to his full potential that we love seeing him in this series. And does the other lady cop who's infiltrating Conrad, Alice? Yeah, so she's off to dinner with Conrad. So I'm wondering if she knows what's happening on the other side, or whether she's
going to find out about
herself.
this. Yeah, I mean that's she might be the next one to go. Actually, just one more loose end.
Another one. Yeah. So you're saying the plot, everyone's story moves forward. We've got Eddie moving forward. We've got
exactly.
The other brother. He's off to the old person's home
Kevin,
to try to get
Kevin's
his revenge. Kevin, that's right. Serafina has a little bit to do. Maeve is chewing the scenery again.
Oh God, as usual.
And Pierce
Conrad's
Brosnan,
his Pierce Brosnan's accent has not improved this whole entire time.
I just don't understand. I mean, I was listening to another podcast, and they randomly brought up Mobland, how amazing it is, how Pierce Brosnan's doing career best work. And
it's insane.
Like, really?
That is insane. They must be getting paid to say some of these things.
Incredible. Yeah. But look, this episode was entertaining, I've got to say.
That's probably the right way to watch it. Watching this just for the plot and just kind of like juicy twists and turns. For example, the whole situation where this is a perfect example of where, you want to take the character seriously. You would think like, Harry's daughter, this is a very bad choice for her to, is she in danger hooking up with Eddie or whatever? And it's not. It's just these silly interactions, where Harry's like, I'll be right by your side as you climb that ladder, and I'll be the first one that throw you off the top when you reach the peak. And of course, this is like totally supposedly traumatizes Eddie. I mean, this is all just fun, to be honest, between these scenes. But how did you buy the interactions there between Harry and his daughter and him trying to like kind of fix that relationship?
Oh, look, I did enjoy when he sat Eddie down on the bed that they just had sex on, and he's exactly like, I trust my daughter. I mean, as a father of daughters, I thought the way that he said it, I trust her judgment, and she's the most beautiful thing in the world. And I really loved the way that he said that to Eddie, and it just kind of, Eddie did not expect that at all, and it really put him off balance.
Eddie, There is nothing in the world that is more precious to a father than his child. Now, Gina is the most beautiful, most precious, funny, brilliant, brightest person in the whole world. And because she is such a bright girl, I trust her. And if she decides that she wants to be with somebody, then as far as I'm concerned, that's her choice. All I can reasonably ask is that you be kind to each other. And if you can promise me that you will show her respect, kindness, well, then you have my blessing.
Thank you.
Okay, we're going to have to write that speech down for later because I'll probably have to use something like that soon, unfortunately.
Hopefully it might not be as bad a choice as Eddie, but
that's exact. Well, God, I just automatically think the worst. But yeah, it was fun seeing his daughter, and his daughter is amazing, and she is, you'd hope, very switched on when she's talking to Harry about the Electra complex.
Exactly, she's using her psychology education to score some points to her dad,
and then go straight to Eddie and go, "Are you a murderer?" and then make out with him anyway. So
yeah, exactly.
Just fun. It is. You're right, as you say, it's fun. It's super fun.
And you see, I mean, Maeve again is just another. I think in a way, like I was bristling against Maeve's the Helen Mirren's performance as Maeve, and now I'm starting to think like, oh no, she's in the right. She knows what show she's in. She knows this. She read all the scripts. She knows exactly what she's doing.
That's exactly right. And that holding hands with Serafina and saying that she's a proper Harrigan. Oh my! You know exactly, and you see Harry over the shoulder, just looking at it, going. I think that's where he clicks. He's like, Maeve's the real one. She's the one that's controlling everything.
Oh, and of course we have to bring up the fact that she says, I should say, that it is Harry who owes her these favors, right? So very important to say that this is not favors I'm doing for the Harrigans. These are favors that I'm doing for you because I want you in my debt. And then Conrad warns him, first of all, you do not want to be in her debt. There's risks in that. But also you do not want to betray the Harrigans because, they will kill your entire family, apparently is what happens if Maeve gets a chance to get at him.
And Kat seems to be a very interesting character. Older lady walking with a cane, but also very beautiful and very commanding performance. And I feel like there's more in history between her and Harry. I don't feel like it's just that she approached him through someone else. I feel like there's something else there. So I'm interested in seeing what happens there.
Beyond that, we also have this ongoing, Kat ties into this directly, but this negotiation between whether Richie is going to come out on top or whether it's going to be the Harrigans and their negotiation with this Mexican drug cartel. And of course, that whole drug, who will be in cahoots. I mean, actually, I was going to say like whoever's going to control that market, but it's not necessarily controlled, right? Because the deal here would be that it's not even 50-50, right? Because they're offering 50% to Kat herself, right?
Just part of this listening to you talk about all that this is happening. I mean, why couldn't this have been seeded earlier on in the series? I mean, I feel like there was episodes that did nothing.
Yes. Yeah.
And now it's trying to do everything.
I mean, I'm going to not be critical about it, but from like a writing standpoint, I 100% agree. I keep getting frustrated with this show that it's like an iceberg where there's like a little peak of a show that I'd be really interested in keeps popping up. And I'm like, oh, that's interesting. And like you mentioned, there's no reason that we couldn't have introduced the Cat character earlier. We couldn't have seen that maybe the Mexican cartel we see them earlier on and they're deciding which one of these families do we want to align ourselves with. Harry's talking to them, trying to say, really, you want to go with the Harrigans, even if you don't trust them, trust me, right? There could have been some really interesting dynamics there. And then you could have wondered, like when someone gets kidnapped or someone gets threatened, you could say, who's telling the truth? Who's lying? I can't even tell. Everybody's got their own agenda. And like you said, there was just like 5-6 episodes where very little was happening. And all this stuff could have been more intriguingly laid out. So, I mean, that's my critical lens on that. But, like from a soap opera perspective, I guess maybe they just want to ramp up that all the stakes are, increasing as we go forward. And speaking of all that, I mean, in the show, this episode was so packed with plot. We also have Bella now is trying to reactivate this negotiation with the French guy, and I almost forgot to completely bring that up. I just remembered it now because it is just like, am I supposed to be paying attention to that? Why is that still part of the plot? We only have like a couple episodes left. There's a lot going on here and I'm confused as to what the most pressing thing we're supposed to be focusing on. I personally am just focused on the battle between Richie and Conrad and who's going to come out on top. And honestly, I'm not rooting for the Harrigans to come out on top.
No, me too. And when you brought up Bella, I mean, she just got a text message or a missed call or something from Antoine, who's the French guy.
Yeah.
But what was more interesting to me was her relationship with Conrad and how that Conrad still thinks of her as one of his women,
You're mine,
even though he's married to his daughter. She's married to his daughter. So to his son, sorry, getting confused. There's so much going on. Kevin is feeling almost emasculated because Bella, he understands Bella's still got that relationship with his father, which I'm sure he's been carrying forever.
Oh, and of course, in the midst of all this, probably the thing we're supposed to, the mystery, and it's confusing because I never know what I'm supposed to be really paying attention to, but the mystery that we're probably supposed to be mostly paying attention to, this, we have confirmation now, as if we needed it, to be honest, given the way the plot has played out, that there's a rat inside the Harrigan organization. And then who's that rat? Once again, it can't just be Joe Schmo at this point. It has to be a big player. You have to assume it's Kevin, maybe? Who do you have any bets on that?
I think I brought that up weeks and weeks and weeks ago that I thought it was Kevin. Yeah. So I completely forgot as well that there's a rat. Yeah, let's stick with that because if I'm right, then that's great. But do you remember there was like a lady lawyer as well? That
yes,
was
of course.
Yeah, where's she
week,
gone?
Yeah.
She disappeared. Yeah, I don't know where she's gone. But you're right. It has to be one of the major players.
Yeah, it's interesting too. We didn't talk about it last week, but that was an important scene with the lawyer where she is basically telling Maeve, like, you guys are in really bad trouble right now. But part of that was because of this investigation. And I mean, once again, I'm not sure this is the right decision in killing their two lead investigators, which I know Richie did it. Maybe Richie is doing that to frame, and this is what I thought at the moment, maybe he's going to frame the Harrigans for the murder of the cops, because the lawyer made it sound like this investigation is very close to uncovering like your whole operation. And if that's the case, killing the cops that are leading that investigation doesn't necessarily take the telescope off of you. That lens is, if anything, more focused on you than ever. And maybe that is what Richie's playing at here, right? You kill these two lead detectives, you frame the Harrigans for that murder. And now, of course, the entire police force is going to be drilling in on the entire operation. And that is going to disrupt the Harrigan operation and keep them from being able to do most of what they want to be doing right when they need to be very active, right? So I think maybe that's what we're seeing here.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And the new Toby Jones character, I feel like he's going to come into it more. And maybe he's got history with Conrad as well as with Richie.
Yes.
And just the fact that he's purposefully, we think, put these cops in extreme peril, killed them, helped kill them. Yeah, maybe he's working a decades-long payback.
Yeah, and then that's another thing that potentially I can imagine that Harry in the final moments has been ahead of everybody and is working with the Toby Jones character, Tattersall, I think his name is, that she's been working with him the whole time. And they're, he's playing chess where everybody else is playing checkers. So, but we would need to have that laid out earlier in the show if that turns out to be the case. So in my opinion, anyway. So
that would be interesting. So you're thinking he might be the snitch all along, because he does have that speech that, he's never going to leave the Harrigans. There's never an option.
Right.
He's saying that to Conrad. Can we trust him when he says that to Conrad? Or maybe he's been trying to get out all along.
Right.
I don't know.
Right.
Yeah. It's cool. I mean, finally things are happening and it's really interesting. There's a couple of episodes to go, and obviously they're going to be setting up for a second season. It feels like the kind of show that would easily get a second season, especially with the amount of love that you find for it.
So who owns who?
You own us, Richie. Like always.
Well, in that case, Colin, my son, we have a deal.
I have to say, though, that this show, my personal opinion, I've been watching it, I've been entertained by it, but in some, I mean, there's definitely been negative takes on the show, don't get me wrong, but it seems to be the consensus, even among a lot of critics, is that this is like really juicy, great. And I'm like, it could be a juicy show. It's just, it's not convincing. It really is not convincing. It's funny because, Guy Ritchie did the first couple episodes and he has not directed anything since then, but it's like Guy Ritchie for me. This kind of reminds me of like the worst Guy Ritchie shows, although this is the writing style is very different than the Guy Ritchie, that kind of really hyper stylized and very funny dialogue. But that there are certain Guy Ritchie films that don't work for me because it just feels like this is so contrived. I don't believe any of these characters. And then there's the ones that, of course, it is very heightened, but it works for me. Like I love these guys. I love their chemistry. I buy into it. And this is just like the off-brand Guy Ritchie, the ones that are like, I'm just not buying all of this. And it's, so it's very funny when I hear people being like so enthusiastically thinking this is such a genius show. I'm like, okay. I mean, it's mildly entertaining. Let's not go crazy here, people. Okay. Calm yourselves down.
Look, to be honest, I don't think of it as a Guy Ritchie show at all, even though he's directed the first two episodes. I feel like that's all he did. Like that's just, he set the kind of style a little bit, and then it doesn't feel like his voice.
Are you looking forward to the Guy Ritchie movie? It's coming 1 week away.
Which movie is that? Is this the Fountain of Youth? I assume that it was already out already. I've been seeing commercials left, right, and center. Okay, that's interesting. No, I'm not looking forward to it because I already thought it was out, and I haven't been compelled to press play on it or even find it.
They've been advertising it like crazy on Apple TV, but in general, I just see ads everywhere. But it is, it's coming out next week, so we're a week. This upcoming week, so we're a week away.
Okay, well, now that you mention it, now that I can actually watch it in a week, then yeah, maybe
now you are
play.
Now you're happy. Maybe you'll watch it after you watch Murderbot. Here's my segue. So did you watch the first 2 episodes of Murderbot by chance?
Of course I did, Victor. I've done my homework, and I really liked it, I have to say.
You look stupid. He's right. I did look stupid, but I had a surprise for them. I had devoted every spare second on this planet trying to hack my governor module. And now was the moment of truth. I just isolated an admin password, and I was going to try to use it to crack the final core encryption. Okay, patching the code. Holy shit! It worked! It worked! Okay, what do I do now? Maybe kill all these idiots and take a starship to a distant galaxy. What should I call myself? Security Unit 238776431 just doesn't have the right ring to it. How about Freedom Units? Or Rogue Bots? No, that sucks. Maybe Murderbot? Murderbot. All right. Let the adventure begin.
Of all the shows we're going to discuss tonight, I think this was my favorite. And once again, going back to that idea, sometimes these like very Star Trek-y shows don't work for me. Like this kind of, it's set on some weird alien planet and it's scientists on a mission. And, I grew up watching the old Star Trek shows, I should say. And I did like them, but it doesn't always work for me. Like I love Galaxy Quest, by the way. So maybe that's something that this kind of strives for. But I have to say, I love these first two episodes because I thought Skarsgård was so hilarious in this role. He's so entertaining, and that's really the reason to watch this show.
It's really fun. He is fantastic. I just love the way he can't do eye contact, or he hates eye contact.
I love that whole episode about it. Yeah.
The effects, the CGI is fantastic.
Yeah.
It just looks so good, and it just suits the whole show. I mean, when you're comparing it to Star Trek, I was never a massive Star Trek fan, but this, it just feels really organic, and yeah, not schlocky or not cheesy. I don't know. It probably is, but these first two episodes just, they tell a cohesive story, I think,
Yeah.
and yeah, it's just really fun and funny, and it's good to get to know the characters. I love David Dasmalchian, and getting to know him more in the second episode is really fun. But yeah, I've got a couple of interesting things about this show. What type of person is Alexander Skarsgård in this show? Is he supposed to be someone with autism, or a metaphor for autism, or a metaphor for social anxiety? Because it plays into a lot of that kind of thing, and that is kind of quite interesting to me. And one other thing that I have picked up is possibly he's the only straight white male in a very diverse cast.
Yes.
And he has no genitals. So
Yes.
are they trying to say something like that? Maybe I'm reading too much into it, but I feel like they're saying something about that as well. I'm not educated enough in film and TV commentary to pull out exactly what they're saying, but I feel like it's fun to think about the show on those lines.
Well, I mean, going back to the Star Trek connection. This reminds me of the character of Data on that show, the Star Trek, whichever one that was that I grew up watching, The Next Generation.
Next Generation. Mm-hmm.
With Picard in them. So that very much is in line with that type of character. Someone who, and when I discussed this with Sona on the podcast previously, I mentioned that it actually made me think a little bit of the Dexter character as well, because Dexter is kind of pretending to be a real, Pinocchio, the whole Pinocchio metaphor. And, he's a real boy, but he's not, he's pretending to be one.
Mm-hmm.
And but I totally agree that there is something, and I don't know, Martha Wells, who's written all these Murderbot books, or it's called the Murderbot Diaries, is the series, although the first book wasn't called Murderbot, but that's kind of what's become known as. And I don't know if she's on the spectrum at all, or maybe has someone in her family. I don't actually know that, but I definitely thought about that. There's like somebody probably who is, has some social anxiety of some kind, or might be on the autism spectrum, and is, trying to fit in without being too obviously awkward in these interactions. But it's a lot of fun. And I also liked it, like you mentioned, loved seeing David Dasmalchian, who is like kind of coming to the fore now. He's become this background character little by little. And I think definitely after the Late Night with the Devil, the success of that movie, having like this first leading role in his entire career, which is, decades long now at this point. And you see him getting more high profile roles here. And he's great as this human who has these implants. So he's trying to compete with this cyborg, the Murderbot character in some ways. But I love when he's like forcing him to make eye contact. He's like, please don't make me make eye contact. But then Garathan, the David Dasmalchian character, also does not like having eye contact. So then when he has to have, like, because he's given him this instruction, and now Murderbot is giving him like way too much eye contact. He's like, you can stop with the eye contact now. He's like freaking him out. It's very funny. And what I love, that thing you called up too, that he's talking about, that usually he goes on these missions, it's all these macho guys, and he has to try to fit in that way. And now all of a sudden, instead, he really he kind of likes these people he's hanging out with now. They're all these kind of like scientists who are also like these hippies. It's a commune. They're all like free love. They literally are all in like thruples and quads and stuff. So it's just hilarious situation he's in. I did start reading the first book, by the way, just for context for anybody who's thinking about reading the two things. The first book is only 150 pages long, incredibly short. They get longer as they go along. There's 7 books now in this series. I am pretty certain that this season of show is going to cover more than the first book, because I've read half of the first book, which was pretty breezy read, by the way. And we practically in two episodes, two episodes, neither one of them, I think, cracks 25 minutes. We are already like halfway through the book. So, I mean, they're going to run out of story pretty quickly. And the second reason I think you might want to watch the show over the book is that the parts that made me laugh out loud, and I laughed out loud multiple times watching this show, the parts that made me laugh out loud are not in the book. So all of the little asides that Alexander, I don't know if he's improvising them or if the Weitz brothers who created the show, if they put it into the script. I think it's a combination of both, to be honest with you. I think some of this might have been improvised in voiceover, but those things are not. Some of these really sarcastic asides that he makes are not in the book. So I think that that's maybe Skarsgård doing a little improv, or at least the creators of the show fleshing things out. And even that the flashback that opens the episode where he first becomes sentient is very funny and not in the book. So it's an addition. All that is to say that I think they've taken what is a pretty straightforward story. It is exactly the same. It's this mission that they're on with these giant worms, etc. That whole thing plays out exactly the same. But they've added details and conversations and all these things onto it, and you can, because these are such slim books. Everything they've added for me is what makes the show worth watching. It's very fun, I think.
It is, yeah, I agree. And it's interesting that, yeah, he spent his whole life as possibly a Murderbot way in the past, but he spent his whole life with assholes, humans as assholes.
Yes.
And then finally he's with humans that actually are really nice to him. Even David Desmalchian, who doesn't need to be nice with him, is very suspicious of him.
Right.
He's still very convivial with him, and it's really thrown old Murderbot. He's not used to humans being so nice, and it's bringing things out of him that he didn't expect.
I only joined Preservation a little over 6 years ago. I was friends with Dr. Mensah.
Why was he telling me this?
I don't know why I'm telling you all this, but I do know that in the corporation rim, you are considered equipment, and you have to do what we say.
Unless it would endanger you, yes. Like if I pulped your head between my hands.
Okay. Well, I am requiring you to make and maintain eye contact. There you go. That's not so bad.
It was so bad.
I also love the fact that even when they think they're talking behind his back, he has access to all of these feeds, even things that they're not aware of. And I think they did such a great job in casting as well as just writing these almost practically every single character. I really like the Mensah character as well, the captain. I like that she's very concerned about him. And obviously, by definition, he's malfunctioning, if that's the case. So there's, the risk that he might impose, especially when you think about what that memory that he's had erased, what that might actually indicate might have actually happened in his past. So he might have become truly murderous at some point. So they should be wary of him. But she is concerned with him, and in her character, that seems to be the case. But I like when he sees her like hyperventilating. It's interesting too, because he fantasizes about killing them all and running off and being able to watch as many soap operas as he wants. But he actually is very concerned for her. Like at the end when she's hyperventilating, he's like, "Don't be so stupid. Come back to the ship." Like this is all this. He can't even obviously express his concern because that would give him away as well, which is part of the pleasure of all of this. And man, I got to tell you, these are 20 minutes episodes. They go by super fast. Every time one ended, I wanted to watch more. And I'm definitely on board. And so much fun so far.
Yeah, that's interesting. You say that he's got to constantly mask to not give himself away. And that's why I was thinking about the autism, or as you say, Dexter as well, is that kind of thing. You've got to constantly mask. All your energy is going towards doing the right thing, saying the right thing, so you don't give yourself up. Yeah, very interesting. And I'm on board as well. Really keen to see the next one.
And there's two conspiracies actually here, or I should say one's a mystery, one's a conspiracy. There's some conspiracy, which is exactly the same in the book, by the way. This is where I stopped reading the book in case it would spoil the show for me. But they are going to the other side of the planet. His map, his version of the map, and the map they've been given are not correctly lined up. And this is extra textual. This is not in the story, but we also see that he has a suppressed memory that they tried to erase, where it seems like he became murderous. So between them getting faulty maps and potentially being put in, close quarters with a potentially murderous robot, makes me feel like someone is trying to wipe them out. But we know Murderbot is actually a sweetheart deep down inside, and he's not going to kill these people.
No,
I don't think
he's
so.
going to save them. No, and there's also that alien artifact in the kind of the unmapped area, which sounds very interesting. So hopefully there'll be some kind of aliens that come into it. And did you notice the opening credits has some kind of strange beings chasing them down the mountain?
Yeah, plot Easter eggs there in that opening credit. Oh, and of course, I forgot to mention that, of course, he is obsessed with just watching. That's all he really wants to do. In the end, he just wants to watch as much soap opera as he could. Mobland, too bad Mobland's not available for him. He'd probably love it. But he wants to watch as many of these space soap operas as he can. And his favorite one is very funny, and it features Jack McBrayer and of course, John Cho as the captain in this fictional show, and Clark Gregg from the Marvel movies, as the lieutenant. So all this is very funny. I like the plot where he has had sex with the navigation unit, which, I mean, maybe Murderbot is a little empathetic there. That
And apparently you can't lie when you're on the deck there. So John Cho's trying to say things without giving it up. It also reminded me of the Black Mirror USS Callister.
Yes, definitely. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And John Cho also was in that Netflix anime adaptation. What was it called? And he's also, of course, he was Sulu in the Star Trek films. So
yes,
having John Cho in there is like a pretty big get for them.
Yeah, no, he's good.
It would be fun if they bring in other famous people to be in other of these serials that he likes to watch. That'd be a lot of fun to watch. But I guess that remains to be seen.
I notice you have an issue with eye contact. What a strange expression. Eye contact. Like our eyes are stalks coming out of our heads and touching other people's eye stalks.
Okay, weirdo.
Okay, and lastly, one more charismatic leading man that leads the way for a show that I found entertaining, but maybe the least of these. But this is Dexter on HBO or HBO Max, as it's called now, or Max, or whatever the hell it's called now. I can't keep it straight. They change it every month. I have like 5 different apps. I have HBO Go installed on my computer. I have HBO Max. Then it was Max. Now it's HBO Max again. It's too confusing. But this was very much felt like the pilot of a network TV series, to be honest. And J.J. Abrams, one of the producers here. So it kind of, who produced Lost, of course, which also starred Josh Holloway. I like the cast. But this is going back to what I was saying about Mobland, how it feels like inauthentic. This very much feels like it is winking constantly at a show like something from the 70s. It doesn't feel like it's from that time. It looks like it is in the style of that time. Basically, everything is so artificial in it, but that's part of the pleasure in seeing it. And I was kind of on the fence as to whether I was on board with this or not. I kind of started to get into it maybe in the last 15, 20 minutes. And I like this whole setup that he is now working with this FBI agent to prove that his boss is actually not the killer of his brother. So like, he's like, I'm working with you, but only to prove that this isn't the case. But of course, we know inevitably that he's probably going to find out some truths that he doesn't want to know. What did you think of this show?
Yeah, I agree that it seemed like an inauthentic take on a 70s show, but I thought it was very smooth, very well produced, very snappy, very quick.
Yep.
The leads are very attractive and very likable as well. The music, I was most interested in the music, and
lots of needle drops.
Yeah, great, fantastic. Next time I watch it, I'm gonna have to get Shazam, pop a few into my list, because there's some great 70s tracks in there, and I thought they would go more funk, but they were rock and roll as well, because lead man is kind of a bit rock and roll, and then you've got the Afro lady who's going to bring the funk. So yeah, I'm down with that. Looking forward to the next episode where hopefully we see the Mexican cartel head, because old mate's not going to rock up to that Monday morning meeting in which he has to rock up to. So that guy's going to come for him. Keith David, great to see him anytime we see him.
Always.
Awesome.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Awesome. I think I might have snoozed through a couple of scenes. It's that
Mm-hmm.
kind of show. Nice and light, nice and breezy. But yeah, I'm not sure if there's a whole lot to grab onto. But yeah, J.J. Abrams, I haven't seen one of his shows for a while. So did you notice that the opening titles of this show were very similar in style to the opening titles of Murderbot?
Yeah.
This kind of CGI, not AI, but almost that kind of look of like toy cars or toy robots.
Yep. It's like claymation
so I'm not
or something. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. So I thought that was interesting. I liked both titles. I'm looking forward to seeing them again, but I'm not sure whether they're made by the same crew, because they looked very similar.
Yeah, a strange coincidence there for sure. And yeah, I also like the style, but it's in the genre, this odd genre where you think about the Tarantino 70s throwback film he made.
Jackie Brown.
Oh yeah, well, Jackie Brown's a good one actually. That's also the case. But I was thinking about his Grindhouse one.
Oh yes, the one with Kurt Russell.
Yes.
I always forget the name of this one, and it's counted as one of his films.
Death Proof. They did actually release
Death Proof. That's right.
Release it as a separate film, and it's funny that it's one of those things that happens with Tarantino films where I thought that it was, even at an hour and a half, the truncated version that was in the double feature was a little indulgent and not one of the lesser ones of his. But then eventually I did watch the full Death Proof 2.5 or whatever, 2 hour and 15-minute version that he eventually released. And what happens a lot with these films of his, which is a very odd thing to say, the extra material actually made it better. So he's one of the few filmmakers that, you make the films longer and they actually maybe flow a little bit better. But anyway, my point was that when you see that, like, it's very much trying to shoot with the film stock from that era. So it almost feels like you found a movie from that era that you're seeing projected. This very much feels like, like no one actually, like these pants, no one wore pants that looked like this. No one styled their hair this way in the early 70s. A lot of the things are like pastiche of things you see in cop buddy films from like the mid 70s or late 70s. And it's all just kind of playing in that general arena. Another very interesting, bizarre coincidence, because both these shows come out on Thursday. Poker Face, which takes place in contemporary times, it's totally styled exactly like these two things could be like a double feature. They're styled like it is a 1970s TV series, which of course is what it's trying to pretend to be. But it's funny because it's like everybody's dressed like they came right out of the 1970s. They're all dressed like people in Duster, even though they have cell phones. So it's like a weird, parallel thing that's happening there too. So like weird synergies that are happening with these things on TV. But cool. But this is only 8 episodes, by the way. So it's another thing that kind of sells it a little bit. How do you feel about this? What's your confidence level in sticking it out?
It's not high, I'm going to say, but it's the type of thing that you can put on as a second screen. It's not very high praise, but I'm gonna watch the next episode and I'll see what happens.
Yeah, I'm definitely committed to seeing the next episode because I did like what they started setting up at the end of episode 1, and I've heard from critics who've gotten to see the show. First of all, they say there's a conspiracy here too that becomes interesting as it goes along. But secondly, they say it's very procedural. So it is kind of like he has some situation that he needs to get himself out of each week, and then it ends on some cliffhanger that hooks you into the next week. So very much like old school TV, which I kind of like. I like the fact that, like you said, you just have it on a second screen, and then the last 3 minutes you're like, what's going on? And then that and then of course that hooks you into the next episode and then the next. So I mean, it could work. That's basically my opinion. I'm like, this could work for me. I'm not 100% bought in with episode 1, but what's going on here could work for me. And I think that Josh Holloway is, Sawyer on Lost is iconic, and he really wasn't able to turn that into anything career wise. And I think he works really, really well in this role.
He does. I wasn't a Lost fan, so I haven't really seen him in anything. But yeah, he's very cool in this. I love seeing the cars. The cars sounded fantastic, and he just looks the part.
And the girls just can't keep their hands off of him. Every girl has to throw herself at him, which is part of the fun of the show, I guess.
Yeah, look, I'm still not on board with this concept of a second screen TV show because
Yes.
I really like to focus my whole intention on the piece of art that's playing in front of me. But our lives are so busy. We do have other things to do, and to keep up with everything, you do need to have something on a second screen sometimes. So I'm going to try to be a little bit more open-minded to have these things on. And if they grab me, they grab me. If they don't, that's fine.
You know what's funny is that this is the Thursday night slot on Max, which just ended with The Pit, which became a huge hit. Mm-hmm. And by the way, The Pit is coming to TNT, and The Pit also feels like television. So maybe this is something they're trying to do to have a like a slot in their schedule where, HBO is always like prestige, it's The Sopranos, it's The Wire, it's all these kind of denser shows like you're describing. Those are definitely not second screen type shows. But The Pit, and the reason I was going to say what this is all circling back to me saying that the Duster, I feel pretty confident that unless I go on vacation and forget about the show, that I probably will watch it through, mostly because it is that thing that, like The Pit, I was like, oh, it's Thursday night, I'll watch this before I go to sleep. And I very much watched The Pit, which came out in January, as if it was just going to be that type of thing, something I casually watch. If I fall asleep in the middle of it, I'll just watch the last 5 minutes of the episode and catch up on it, thinking like it's almost like traditional episodic television. And The Pit did not turn out to be that at all. I got totally hooked in and I would look forward to The Pit. It was my number one watch at one point, very enthusiastically looking forward to each one of those episodes. So I don't see that happening here with Duster, but I could imagine that I basically would become a watcher of it because it's Thursday night. There's not like Friday and there's 10 possible things that I watch, like a movie that's coming out or a rental that I've been waiting for a while. And then the weekend comes around and I have to pick like one thing to watch because it's all I have time to watch. This is on a Thursday night. Like that might be the only thing. And there's Poker Face, but Poker Face is, again, not something that you need to focus 120% on.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, I was looking for it on Thursday night, but for the
your schedule
of time and distance, and we're way in the future or in the past. I don't know what we are.
That's right.
It came on Friday, so I was like, "Oh, Duster's on Friday, but Your Friends and Neighbors is on Friday as well. Right. What am I going to do?" I think Murderbot is now on Friday, so
that's correct.
I still haven't caught up on the studio. Yeah, there's a few things rolling around right now that I'm going to have to try to fit into my schedule.
So the studio, we talk about, spend a minute on that one. The studio is wrapping up next week, and it's a 2-part episode, the one you missed. So you might as well just watch them together. The cliffhanger basically is that they need to have a big presentation at CinemaCon, or the studio might get sold to Amazon. Amazon already bought one studio. They might think about buying theirs. And they all accidentally eat mushrooms and they're like completely baked out of their minds. And now they have to go do their presentation. A minor spoiler.
That's so
But
fun.
Of course, that's not
a fun show.
It's so much fun. But like I said, like since it's basically that's the setup and you're just like, oh my God, now they have to present. You might as well just watch the whole thing in one shot.
It's great. It's so fun and it's so technical, and they're just the actors are all swinging through the fences, and the script is so sharp and funny and fast. Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah, and they're shooting in Vegas this week, and they're like chasing people from like the poker tables out to the river that goes through under the Venetian or whatever the casino is. And once again, it's not one single take like it's been recently, but it's just like a bunch of very long takes. And once again, incredibly complicated to have to move these people from one lighting setup and one location to another location and chasing them literally from one scene to another. And Bryan Cranston like basically does a magic trick at one point. He's in one location, then he's in another. And I'm like, well, how did they pull that off? They must have used a double or something, because it's all happening in camera. Very clever. And I'm sure they're creating these little challenges that they have to accomplish in each one of these. So they're having a lot of fun. and the show's a lot of fun. Will we get a second season in the studio? I don't know how popular the show's been, so maybe we get one, but I do hope they do. It'd be funny if they shot two versions of it where the studio gets sold or not sold, depending on whether Apple greenlights them for a second season or not.
I've got something in my brain that it was renewed for a second season.
It is possible. Let me take a quick look to see if it's in the headlines.
Oh, yeah, we can do that, can't we?
Oh, you are correct. It got announced on May 6th. So yeah, just 2 weeks, like less than 2 weeks ago. You know what? If they shot two versions, maybe they needed to know, by the way, to see which ending they got. My guess at this point is that they have a successful presentation and Amazon doesn't want them. The other possibility, by the way, which would be very funny, I'm just thinking about it now, would be that when they introduce all the movies they have coming out, that Amazon's like, oh my God, what a mess. We don't want that. A Kool-Aid movie, give me a break.
Oh my God, is the Kool-Aid movie still going?
Oh yeah, it's definitely going. That's like the centerpiece of their whole entire presentation.
With Ice Cube.
Oh my, I can't wait to see that whole yes. We'll see how it all rolls out next week. Anyway, the finale next week, and we can probably talk about it next time we meet again.
Very cool.
Murderbot on Friday night, and a whole whopping 20-minute episode of Murderbot. Maybe we'll drill into the plot a little bit more and what possible conspiracies. So did you happen to go check out the Final Destination movie this weekend?
I have not, but because I recently got this Max app, we did watch the opening. The
whole thing's on, the whole series on there, yeah.
It's all on there. So one of my kids was like, oh, what's this Final Destination? So we watched the logging truck disaster.
Yes.
We watched the bridge crash, and we watched the roller coaster crash, and so that was quite interesting just to watch the openings of all those shows and how differently they do them, and so they all work great. And I've heard great things, not just from you, from other people about this new Final Destination movie. So
it's such a blast. It's a huge hit. I don't know if you saw the box office, but worldwide it made over $100 million over the weekend.
Wow.
This is not a franchise that, the last one, which is like 14 years ago now, I think was one of the most successful and made like 100 and change. So that's about what they've been doing since the beginning, a little bit over 100 million. And I think the biggest one was that 3D one, and of course got the surcharge with all the 3D tickets. So that's the biggest they've ever had. This thing is going to blow past that pretty quickly. So we're definitely going to see more of these. And it's so smart. It's so surprising that it is like the film. And I guess this is the talent that these guys have. These are the same writers who rebooted the Scream franchise. And I've been a fan of the reboot of Scream, especially I should say, the first of those reboots. And I think it's like they have figured out, when you inevitably watch this movie, it's like, oh, this is what the series should have been from the very beginning. What it's kind of accidentally become, this really elaborate kills and the comedy of that, and the whole mystery of like who's going to die how, and like, you see all the dominoes being lined up, and then you're just waiting for them to all like click into place, and that whole pleasurable aspect of it. In my memory, that was what the series had always been. And then when I watched it, I'm like, oh, I guess the series kind of accidentally became that over time, and to varying degrees of success. This one really is, I think, probably going to be considered the best of the series. By the way, I also tried to rewatch most of the original series, and I know the second one is not as well liked as some of the other ones. For my money, the second one, with the creativity of the kills and that incredible car sequence, which is shot like right here near my house here in New Jersey. Wow. Maybe that's partially the reason, but I think that's just so well executed, as opposed to the third film, which the CGI in is so obvious that it makes the whole roller coaster thing not very scary, as opposed to like every time I'm driving behind a logging truck, I'm always like, I need to get out of this lane. And I always remember that movie. That'll live with me forever. I have never thought about the Final Destination 3 whenever I've gotten on a roller coaster.
No, if we had those logging trucks around near where I live, I would be freaked out for sure. That is implanted in my memory as the best disaster from those films, for sure.
It is so incredibly well done. It's you could just watch that a bunch of times in a row and just be like, wow, how did they do this? This is incredible. So
I feel like I saw it twice in the cinema as well.
Worth seeing it just for that. Although that was actually, like I said, I really find that one very entertaining. Even all the stuff that happens later and all the really hilarious things, like the guy who goes into the elevator with all the hook arms. It's like, who walks around with a box of hook arms? But anyway, all of that is just so hilarious. But man, that the accident, that trucking accident is incredible. That whole sequence. And like I said, it's one of those series where the CGI really is detrimental to it, because the more reliant they became on CGI, the worse those films became, I think.
Yep, makes sense.
All right, I think we got touched on all those, and we will. But we have the new Mission Impossible this weekend. So if you check that out, we can round out the episode with a conversation about that.
Yeah, I mean, this weekend is a long way away for me, but I really do want to check it out. Hopefully that can happen, and see what Tom Cruise is up to now.
Good reviews have been not the best for the series, to be honest, coming out of Cannes. I mean, you know what? I like them all, even the worst of them. So
yeah, they are fun. I just don't want it to be 160 minutes long or something.
I think it's long. That's the problem.
Yeah, okay.
Or one of the problems, anyway. Oh, and of course, maybe we'll watch the Fountain of Youth as well.
Fountain of Youth. What day is that coming out? Do you know?
I think it's on
Friday.
Everything. I mean, it's everything.
Friday.
Yeah,
everything's on Friday.
Yep. May 23rd. Another Friday release. So you can go watch the Fountain of Youth and Murderbot and Dexter and maybe catch up on the Final Destination movie and the new Mission Impossible. Why not?
And Friends and Neighbors as well.
Oh, Friends and Neighbors, of course. Speaking of, you'll get thematically tying together. Speaking of a show that like really works because of the charisma of the central character, there's another one.
Yeah, though I think my wife's offered. I talked to her yesterday about it. She's like, "Oh, that episode was terrible. I don't know what they're doing." So, but I think there's only a couple of.
There's only two left, so I think we're.
Yes.
I
want to finish it.
Exactly. I want to know what happens. So, I do agree. The last week was a little rough. But yeah, 2 weeks ago, and I'm still intrigued with the premise is strong enough where I'm still interested in seeing where they land for next season.
I agree. Yeah, I'm down.
All right, Darren. Thanks again, and I guess we'll touch base again next week.
All right. Thanks so much, Victor.
Have a good one.